Hello and welcome. Very good afternoon and welcome to this very special show on Mirror Now, where we bring you stories of good Samaritans, those among us who are pitching it in with their efforts to help those who need the help the most at the moment, the underprivileged, the elderly and the migrant laborers. So what we do here is we highlight their stories and we bring you the way they are trying to pitch in with help. The onus is not always on the governments, the onus is also on citizens, and therefore it's extremely heartening to see these civil citizen groups, ordinary citizens in many cases, coming forward and doing their bit. So I would like to introduce my guests this afternoon on Mirror Now, who will share with us their stories and their journey so far. These are good Samaritans, as we call them. They're stepping up efforts to do their bit to help out at a time when the country is battling against the deadly coronavirus. So let me introduce the guests that we have on the show today. Bijou K, who's a resident of Mumbai, is part of the Living Laval group. Now, Bijou's story is interesting and inspiring because a lot of times we have people who work around in our vicinity. We operate out of homes and offices, and there are always people who are catering to us, whether it is our tea vendors or vegetable vendors or even, say, the laundryman who sits on the street. But we tend to forget about them. We don't even remember they exist, happy to lock ourselves up in our homes. But what's happening with them? But people like Bijou K have decided to reach out to people in his immediate vicinity. And it's a group of 100 residents who have come together. So Bijou will share with us his story and how he's making it all happen. Let me introduce my next guest on the show today, Mr. Nishant, who is in fact somebody who actually started this idea with a group of people who used to carpool to office. Again, very interesting to see that it doesn't always take too many people to do these things. It's just a bunch of 6 people, and they distribute food packets among security guards and senior citizens who live alone and who cannot step out either because of any physical disability or simply because they come under the highly vulnerable group of senior citizens. So the idea is to collect funds and deliver the necessities and the daily essentials to them. I welcome Nishant to the show. My third guest this afternoon is Arish Kamar. Now, here is a student who actually did not start with the idea of working towards the COVID-19 affected people. Initially, this group of students actually were only protesting against the CAA. That is why they came together. But now look at the way they have repurposed themselves, elevated their cause to a larger humanitarian cause, which is why I welcome Arish Kamar to this special show on Mirror Now. And Arish will share with us his story on how they decided to bring this idea to the students, convinced everybody that let's now change our agenda to something else. So I welcome all of you to Mirror Now, and my first question goes to Bijou K. Bijou K, your idea, of course, something that should be inspiring to many of us. We all have people in our vicinity, but only few like you have made this effort. I believe you have pooled in money and you've managed to give 6,000 rupees to each of the daily wager in your locality. Tell us, how did you make it happen, and what is the kind of support system you have to do this?
So first, I must correct you that I live in Bangalore, and this is an initiative that we started in locality, which is Level Road and Vittal Malya Road, which is right in the center of Bangalore. And what we have around us is a whole bunch of support services, like the local dobi. There's somebody who sells flowers. There's somebody who sells vegetables. There are people who provide food for some of the security guards in the locality. So a lot of them who've actually supported them were immediately shut down after the lockdown happened on the 24th of last month. And what we realized is that they will need to actually get some kind of sustenance because they are truly what you define as the daily wage earners. So as an association, we fight for a lot of things. We decided that we will hand out 6,000 rupees to each of them to help them tide over the immediate requirements, because with daily wage earners, they actually live on daily incomes. So even if they want to stock up, they don't really have the money to be able to afford stocking up. So we gave them 6,000, which enabled them to be able to stock up on provisions and rations for their requirements for the next 15 days. And that's what we've done at one space in this area. The second thing that we've done is we've looked at several buildings which are office buildings in the neighborhood, and all of them are guarded by security guards. Typically, the security guards, are fed by the mobile food carts which come around in the area. Since there aren't any mobile food carts, we decided that we need to be able to help provide food for them while they are there, because they can't abandon their duties and they remain there where they are in the buildings, and they're running out of rations. So we decided to provide food to them. So that's the other thing that we had done. And the third that we did is, when we always look at our surroundings, we think of that as the surroundings which include human beings. But we also have a lot of, stray dogs in the neighborhood. So we said that, these are normally fed by humans who walk around, and they are the ones who, they are kind of part of the neighborhood already. So we said, let's try and see how we can feed these stray dogs in the neighborhood. So that's another exercise which we do every day. We've bought rations, and we've got some way of being able to cook it and then move it around in the neighborhood and feed these dogs so that they're not left starving on the road due to this shutdown. So these are just a few of the things that we've done to be able to help people and to help animals to survive through this entire shutdown.
Right, which is why we are running your phone number as well on our screens. Those people who want to reach out, Bijou K is based in Bangalore, is helping out those who work for us on a day-to-day basis, the regular vendors, the street vendors who work around our localities. And without them, our systems would not run. But when there is a system shutdown, we should not completely abandon them. So that's why we're celebrating stories like that of Bijou K, who is making this effort. I'm going across to Nishant now, who has started this idea with his partners in the carpool. So Nishant, tell us, how did you think of this? Because clearly what you have brought to the fore is that you don't have to reach out to too many people. You can just capitalize on the existing group that you have. As long as they're all like-minded, you can pool in your efforts and resources to do something like this. But tell us exactly what you do. How did you manage the finances to reach out to the homeless, and how do you distribute food with them? Okay, I think Nishant is not able to hear me. Let me introduce the third guest that we have on the show, Arish Kamar. Like I said, he's a student, and now he's got a group of people that has students, social workers, Bollywood celebrities, and also former bureaucrats. So Arish, tell us, how did you bring all of these people together? Originally, you were together for a different purpose, but today you're working on a completely different agenda. Can you share your story and how you came together and what exactly you're doing at the moment?
Okay, so exactly what happened, we got a platform because of this Mumbai against CA, and on that we have almost all kind of students from all over universities of Mumbai. And what we did when we saw this crisis, we just channelized this platform. And we contacted all the volunteers, all the people all over Mumbai, and we said, Ki, let's start this because we have a channel, we have contacts, we have everything. So let's start with this with crowdfunding, and we started. And currently, we are working. Me with some of my friends, we are working in Manpur, Chembur, and Govandi, and some of other people are working in Dharavi. Some other people are working in Kurla. So we have contacts all over Mumbai, and that was the benefit. We channelize that benefit, we channelize that platform, we channelize that contact, and we started crowdfunding, and we started distributing food kit to the laborers and the migrants.
Right, food kits. Now, when you talk about these food kits, there are a lot of issues, of course, about the delivery system. How do you do the disbursing of these items, and how do you make sure that you, at the same time, take enough precautions at a time when human-to-human contact is extremely avoidable? How do you do the deliveries?
See, uh, basically what we did, we have established some of the centers in the Manpur, Shivaji Nagar, and Cheetah Camp. So the volunteers, our
Okay.
volunteers, basically, they're the local of that particular place, particular slum. They know all the people, they know all the contacts of that particular slum, and what they do, we provide the food kit We deliver that food kit to that particular centers only, and by that, by our volunteers, they distribute the food kit to the people who are really in need, door to door, because they know, they identify the people, they do the need assessment, and they delivered it at door to door. Okay, so no, we are not creating any havoc, we are not creating any chaos. Okay, so we are distributing door to door. We first identify the people and then we give the food kit.
Okay, right. Arish, good to hear your story, and something very similar that Nishant is also doing. Nishant, I lost the line with you earlier. I just want you to also share your story about how you distribute food packets among senior citizens in particular, and how did this idea come about? Because a lot of us are part of these WhatsApp groups, etc., but we never think of using the existing human resource that is in our hands, and capitalizing on the existing network of people. Something that you have done.
Yeah, so exactly. Mumbai Hustlers is basically a carpooling group. We are 1,000 plus poolers. We pool from various locations across Mumbai. So, as you said, how do you come across the people in contact? So these poolers are the ones who have helped us to connect to the needies. They know the streets across where there are people who are starving. There are rickshaw guys who are not filling gas in the rickshaws, and they are the kids are having only one time meal. So these our poolers have came ahead and contributed towards the fund. Thankfully, one of the poolers
Okay.
has a hotel, and he helps us. Ireda Dhaba is one of his hotels where he gets the food cooked. So we make sure we have enough hygiene maintained, because COVID-19 being a virus, we do not want it to spread across when we are distributing. So we are distributing food packets on almost 170, 190 on daily basis. Till today, we have distributed around 1,300 packets. And yeah, that's how we are connected to all the people. And we have shared our numbers
But how are you managing
are
the
on social
finances? Where
medias
do the
on WhatsApp.
funds come from, Nishant?
So, as I said, we are a bunch, 1,000 poolers. We have dropped messages on our pooling groups, and I have requested our poolers itself to donate funds.
Okay.
And people have generously come ahead and
Right. So that's the thing. If one person takes an initiative and motivates the others, there are enough people out there who are willing to help. Sometimes they just need a little bit of a nudge and a push, which people like Nishant are doing very ably. I want to go back to Mr. Bijou K and to again ask you this question about what kind of personal experience did you have in doing something like this? Because I'm sure this gives you a lot of personal satisfaction. Would you like to share with us any particular instance where you saw that if you were not there or your network of people were not there to help, perhaps people would have to go hungry, or perhaps they would have to do without their basic essentials? Can you share any personal experience where you felt satisfied that something like this is happening and it is working for the people at large?
So, Afida, on this particular point, I think, we do something at Level Road itself, which we define as living level. But in addition to that, there are many of us who are resident in this area who are supporting several other initiatives too. And one of the things that we've done recently, in fact, we started it only last week, is to be able to get a bunch of management graduates. Some of us have graduated from XLRI. So we used, the XLRI alumni. There are others from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. And so we've taken, we've got these graduates in. They've got management capabilities. They've got the attitude to be able to help. So we've used them, and we've created a volunteer group. And what we're doing with this volunteer group is, while I live in the middle of the city, there might not be too many people who require food beyond whoever I described earlier. But there are several people who live in the fringes of the city whom you might define as slum dwellers, define as migrant labor, define as the poorest of the urban poor. And these are the kind of people who actually require support. So we've, worked with NGOs at one end, which is NGOs like Diagar, NGOs such as Youth Feed India, NGOs such as CFAR, NGOs such as SAFA. And then we've also worked with NGOs at the ground level, because there are NGOs at the ground level who typically work with, say, education for migrant children, who work otherwise for health for the slum dwellers. And what we've got them to do is to be able to repurpose their NGOs and then support us in this one initiative, which is to be able to get rations to those who live on the fringes. And I can tell you the number of corporates who are there, and the number of philanthropic, high net worth individuals who are willing to support this have been tremendous. And we've managed to then use the money, and I can tell you all of the people in the chain. So whether it is the NGO which is collecting the money, whether it is somebody like Keto, whose platform we're using to be able to crowdsource funding, none of them are actually charging anything for administrative charges or gateway charges. And every bit of this is then utilized for buying rations, which are packaged into packets. Each of these packets is designed scientifically by a nutrition expert to be able to deliver roughly about 2,000 calories per day per head. And we make a packet for a family of 4. And then these are distributed out into the surrounding areas. So there is work like that which is also happening. So I think when you think of it, it's the important thing to be able to identify who you want to support, figure out a way of being able to channel the resources, whether it's effort and money, and translate this entire thing into a chain which benefits a lot of people.
Yes, I really like what you said about how there are so many others besides the ones we are highlighting today, nameless, faceless people, because we cannot feature each and every person, who are doing their bit. As Mr. Bijou K said, there are philanthropic, high net worth individuals behind each of these networks that are working on ground, which is why they are able to stay afloat and do their bit. Of course, many of them sometimes do not want to be named, but they do want to silently serve. And we, of course, salute all of them, because they are covering those gaps in the system which the government cannot address. And that is why this is extremely heartening. I'll take closing comments from everyone now, starting with Arish. I want to ask you, Arish, the thing about you is that you've brought a lot of people together, and you are also catering to a lot of people who are at this point in time most in need of assistance. But can you give us an idea of how many families are benefiting from your initiative? How many people you're catering to?
Physically, in Mankud and Chambur and Govandi, we have reached to around 1010 family currently. We have reached there, and we also assisted some of the families through phone. And we are transferring our call if some issues are coming from some other area like Malan, Dharavi. So we are transferring those calls to our volunteers of that particular area. The problem is what we are facing currently. The people, most of the people of that particular slums, they are migrant. They don't have a ration card. I mean, ration card of that particular area. So they can't get the food from PDS system, because they are not born in that particular area. They are from Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. So whatever schemes government, Maharashtra government or central government is providing to them, they will not get benefited from that schemes, because they are not domiciled of that particular area. So the issue is that we need to come out, because they all are daily wages, and they work on daily basis. They get salary, they get paid on daily basis. So we need to come out. We need to help to them, and that's all we are doing.
Yes. That's a very important point what you made, that there is an existing public distribution system. There is a disbursal system that is working in government initiative also, but a lot of people do not fit in, or are not covered in that net, simply because they do not have a document or a piece of paper that they have to furnish in order to get that benefit, or in order to be able to access that welfare scheme. So people like Arish Kamal reaching out to those, which is why I said that they are closing the gaps wherever there is a gap in the government initiatives. Citizens, ordinary citizens, people, civil citizen groups are helping out in closing those gaps. Last word to Nishant, since you mentioned about how you've managed the finances also very well, and you were saying that if there is an intent, then things just do fall in place, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about, the fact that there are hurdles. It's not that everything goes smooth all the time, which Arish was saying, but how do you overcome them, and what motivates you to keep going day on day to help those who need your help?
Well, the messages that comes across once the poolers inform us about that the food has been delivered, they have loved the food. What we are doing in additional to sending food outs, we are also making sure that we give masks and sanitizers as well to the needies. because food is one part, but they also need to be made sure that they are maintaining hygiene, they're wearing masks. So we are delivering masks to all the needies. Not only that, we are giving it to various people in the police stations, traffic police. If they find anyone who are not wearing masks on the streets, they make sure that they give the mask to them. Hurdles, yes, there are many, not much of a hurdles that we have faced, because the group is active, that they give us all insights about where the needies are and what food they require. Yes, as Arish said, there are migrants who are who need food, and they do connect with us and ask us for lunch and dinner. And we have been great for our team of all our Mumbai Hustlers team, who have helped us in contributing and making this a success.
Right. So the idea is to identify those who are in need and then reach out with the necessary help. That is what people like Nishant, Arish Kamar and Bijou K are doing. I thank my guests for joining us this afternoon. And with that, we wrap up this show. And remember, we continue to highlight those stories of good Samaritans who are working silently. We focus on them and tell our viewers how, if you have the intent to help, you can do it with minimum resources. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of people out there who need your help and assistance. Thanks for watching this special show.